there is a kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. It settles into your bones, follows you from room to room, and reminds you, again and again, that someone who once filled your life is gone. I learned that silence after my husband died. My name is Dorothy Mae Williams. I was 67 when my world collapsed in a single phone call. One moment, I was waiting for my husband to return from work. The next, I was being told there had been an accident. A truck. A wet road. No second chances. Grief doesn't arrive all at once. At first, it comes in waves. You cry, you breathe, you survive. But then it changes shape. It seeps into your sleep, your memory, your sense of time. Nights became unbearable. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying moments I wished I could relive or undo. Concerned, my doctor prescribed medication. Just to help you rest, he said. And to ease the depression. I trusted him. I trusted the little white pills that promised peace. At first, they worked. I slept. Deeply. For the first time in months, the nights passed without tears. But soon, something else began to happen, something I didn't understand. I started waking up sore. It wasn't the gentle stiffness of age. It was a deep ache, especially in my arms and shoulders, as if I had been held down. I assumed I was sleeping badly. Maybe twisting too much. Maybe the mattress was old. I made excuses because that's what grieving people do. We look for reasons that don't scare us. Then came the bruises. Small at first. Faint marks along my wrists, my upper arms. I barely noticed them until one morning I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark fingerprints stood out clearly against my pale skin. My heart skipped. I told myself I must have bumped into something during the night. Maybe I fell. Maybe I grabbed myself while half asleep. The medication leaflet mentioned dizziness and confusion. Memory gaps, even. I folded the paper and placed it back in the drawer. As if hiding it would make the fear disappear. Around that time, my son moved back in. He said it was temporary. Just until I was stronger. I agreed, grateful not to be alone. He cooked, cleaned, reminded me to take my pills. He spoke gently, patiently, like a son who loved his mother. During the day, everything felt normal. At night, my body betrayed me. I began waking up to strange details I couldn't explain. My bedroom door, locked when I went to sleep, would be open in the morning. The key wouldn't be where I left it. Sometimes it appeared on the dresser. Once, inexplicably, on the kitchen counter. Even worse were my clothes. Some mornings, my pajamas were twisted inside out. Other days, pieces were missing entirely. I would stand there, frozen, trying to remember undressing. There was nothing. No dream. No memory. Just emptiness. Fear has a way of whispering before it screams. I started locking my door every night and checking it twice. I placed objects near the entrance, a chair, a basket, anything that might make noise. Every morning, the objects were untouched. The door was unlocked. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? The doctor who prescribed the medication? My friends from church? How could I even explain something I didn't understand myself? The bruises worsened. One morning, I noticed scratch marks along my neck. Fresh. Red. Angry. I stared at myself in the mirror, my hands trembling, my breath shallow. For the first time, I felt something colder than fear, suspicion. A knock sounded on the bathroom door. "Mom? You okay?" my son asked. "Breakfast is ready." I nearly jumped out of my skin. I stared at the door, then back at my reflection. My son's voice was normal, kind, familiar. And yet, a thought, dark and unforgivable, slipped into my mind. What if he knew something I didn't? The thought made me nauseous. I pushed it away instantly. How could I even consider something so horrible? This was my child. The boy I raised. The one who held my hand when his father was buried. I opened the door, smiled, and said I was fine. But the thought didn't leave. It followed me through breakfast, through the day, through every interaction. Every time he handed me my pills, every time he lingered too long in the doorway, every time he asked how I slept. I tried staying awake at night. I fought the medication, determined to keep control of my body. But exhaustion always won. Sleep dragged me under like a tide. And every morning, I woke up afraid. Afraid of my own body. Afraid of my own mind. Afraid of my own home. I began wearing long sleeves, even in warm weather. I stopped attending church regularly. I avoided friends. Isolation felt safer than questions I couldn't answer. One night, lying in bed, staring into the darkness, I realized something that terrified me even more than the bruises. If I didn't find the truth soon, whatever was happening would destroy me, whether it was real or imagined. I didn't know yet how deep that truth would cut. I didn't know that my next decision would change everything I believed about myself, my son, and the thin line between fear and reality. All I knew was this: I couldn't keep living like this. That night, I made a choice born out of desperation, a choice to uncover the truth at any cost. What I discovered next would force me to question not just what was happening in my house, but who I really was when I slept. Fear doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers so quietly that you start believing it's your own voice. After that night, something inside me shifted. I was no longer just confused. I was alert. Hyper-aware. Every sound in the house made my heart race. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, even the soft click of doors settling in their frames felt like warnings. Sleep became my enemy. I began delaying my medication, telling myself I'd take it in a few minutes. I would sit on the edge of my bed, staring at the pills in my palm, weighing a terrible choice: rest and risk the unknown, or stay awake and unravel slowly. Most nights, exhaustion won. And every morning, I woke up with new evidence that something was wrong. One day it was soreness along my ribs. Another day, a bruise blooming on my thigh. Once, I woke up on the floor beside the bed with no memory of how I got there. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, wondering how much of my life was slipping through cracks I couldn't see. My son noticed the change in me. "You seem tense, Mom," he said one afternoon. "Are you sleeping okay?" I wanted to scream the truth. I wanted to ask him directly. But fear tangled my tongue. Accusations without proof can destroy families, and I wasn't ready to shatter what little stability we had left. "I'm fine," I said, again. But I wasn't. I started testing reality in small ways. I placed my slippers neatly by the bed before sleeping. In the morning, they were across the room. I folded my blanket a certain way. I woke up tangled in it. I locked the door, checked the handle twice, then 3 times. Still unlocked by morning. I told myself it had to be the medication. That explanation was safer. Doctors warn about sleepwalking, memory loss, even nighttime confusion. I clung to that idea like a lifeline, even as the bruises grew darker and my anxiety grew louder. One evening, I finally spoke to my son, carefully. "I think the pills might be affecting me," I said, choosing each word like a step across thin ice. "I'm waking up sore. Confused. Things don't feel right." He listened intently, nodding, concern softening his face. "That can happen," he said. "I've read about it. We should talk to your doctor. Maybe adjust the dose." His calm response reassured me and terrified me at the same time. Because if it wasn't the medication, then what was it? That night, I barely slept. I dreamed my husband was standing at the foot of the bed. His face hidden in shadow. I tried to call out to him, but my mouth wouldn't open. When I woke up, my heart was racing, and my bedroom door was wide open. That was the moment denial stopped working. I realized something painful and important. Fear without answers is more dangerous than the truth. If I didn't find proof, my mind would keep filling in the gaps with monsters. So I decided to gather evidence. The next afternoon, while my son was at work, I left the house alone. My hands shook as I drove downtown, my thoughts looping through every possible outcome. I felt ridiculous, dramatic, even guilty, but I didn't turn back. I walked into a small electronics store tucked between a bakery and a dry cleaner. The smell of plastic and dust greeted me as a young clerk asked if I needed help. "I need, or a camera," I said quietly. "Something small." He showed me several options. My heart pounded as he demonstrated night vision, motion detection, discreet designs. I chose one disguised as a wall outlet, something that wouldn't draw attention. Something that wouldn't lie. I paid in cash. As I walked out, the weight of what I was doing hit me. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was fear demanding answers. That evening, I installed the camera in my bedroom while my son was still out. I tested the angle, making sure the bed was clearly visible. The red indicator light blinked softly, steady and silent. For the first time in weeks, I felt a strange sense of control. That night, I took my medication without hesitation. If something happened, I would finally know. Sleep came quickly, too quickly. Darkness swallowed me whole. When morning arrived, sunlight streamed through the curtains as if nothing unusual had occurred. My body ached, but not as badly as before. My door was unlocked again. My son had already left for work. A note sat on the kitchen table, reminding me about a doctor's appointment later that afternoon. I barely noticed it. My hands trembled as I returned to the bedroom and removed the camera. I locked the door behind me, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the memory card resting in my palm. I prayed. Not for comfort. Not for peace. I prayed for the truth, whatever it was. When I finally pressed play, I braced myself for the worst. I expected to see an intruder. I expected to see my son. I expected to confirm my deepest fear. What I saw instead made my blood run cold. The screen lit up, revealing a truth I never imagined, and in that moment, I realized the danger had never been outside my door. It had been sleeping inside me all along. I don't remember how long I sat there before pressing play. The room felt too quiet, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The small screen glowed in my trembling hands, and for a moment, I almost turned it off. There are truths you sense will change you forever, and once you know them, there's no return. But fear had already taken too much from me. I needed answers. The video began at the moment I fell asleep. There I was, peaceful, still, wrapped in blankets like any ordinary night. Minutes passed. Then hours. I leaned closer, my heart slowly calming, almost embarrassed by my own suspicion. Then the timestamp jumped. 2:43 a.m. My body moved. At first, it was subtle, a twitch of my arm, a sharp inhale. Then I sat straight up in bed, suddenly and violently, like someone yanked me awake by an invisible string. My eyes were open, but they were empty. I watched myself climb out of bed, my movements stiff and unnatural. I didn't stretch. I didn't yawn. I just stood there, swaying slightly, staring at nothing. I felt sick. On screen, I walked to the bedroom door, unlocked it with practiced ease, and stepped back into the room. Then I began pacing, fast, frantic circles, hands clutching my hair like I was trying to pull something terrible out of my head. And then it started. I scratched my arms, my neck, my shoulders, hard, desperate, over and over. Watching it happen made my skin crawl. Those bruises, those marks I'd been hiding, they were my own doing. I whispered a no-e under my breath, tears streaming down my face. On the screen, I suddenly screamed, but the camera caught no sound. My mouth opened wide, my face twisted in terror, but the room remained silent. It was the most horrifying thing I had ever seen, pain without a voice. Then I slammed myself against the wall. Once. Twice. The impact echoed faintly through the recording. I gasped, clutching my ribs in real life, remembering the soreness I'd woken up with so many mornings. That's when the bedroom door flew open. My son ran in. Not cautiously. Not hesitantly. He ran like someone responding to an emergency. "Mom," he shouted, his voice clear and panicked through the camera's tiny microphone. I expected violence. I expected the worst. Instead, I watched him try to save me. I lunged at him. On screen, I scratched his arms, slapped his chest, kicked wildly. My body moved with a strength I didn't recognize, fueled by fear, not reason. He grabbed my wrists, not to hurt me, but to stop me from tearing my own skin apart. That's where the finger-shaped bruises came from. He cried as he held me, begging me to calm down, his voice cracking with helplessness. He didn't raise his hand. He didn't shout back. He took the blows, absorbed them, and refused to let go. Eventually, my body went limp. He guided me back to the bed, tucking the blanket around me gently, like I was a child. He brushed my hair away from my face and checked my breathing, staying there longer than necessary, just to be sure. Before leaving the room, he sat on the floor. The camera captured him with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. I had never seen my son cry like that. "I won't put you in a facility," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I promised Dad I'd protect you. I won't fail you." The screen went dark. I dropped the device and collapsed onto the floor, sobbing so hard I could barely breathe. I had been my own tormentor. The fear. The bruises. The unlocked doors. The missing clothes. All of it traced back to the same place, my mind, trapped in a waking nightmare my body acted out while I slept. And my son had been carrying this secret alone. Night after night, he endured my attacks, cleaned the blood, hid the truth, and still showed up every morning with patience and care. While I suspected him in silence, he was protecting me in the dark. Shame flooded me. I thought of every smile I forced, every lie I told, every moment I watched him closely, searching for guilt that never existed. I stayed on the floor for a long time, replaying the footage again and again, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand. Needed to accept the truth my mind resisted. This wasn't madness. It was a reaction. A perfect storm of grief, medication, exhaustion, and trauma colliding in the worst possible way. And I had almost destroyed the only person who stood between me and real danger. When my son came home that afternoon, I didn't wait for him to speak. I hugged him. Tight. Desperate. Uncontrolled. He froze for a moment, surprised, then hugged me back. I felt how tired he was. How thin the line had been, for both of us. I know, I said through tears. I saw everything. He didn't ask how. He didn't deny it. He just closed his eyes and exhaled, like someone who had been holding their breath for weeks. I was scared to tell you, he admitted quietly. I didn't want to make it worse. That night, we talked for hours. About the medication, about grief, about fear, about the promise he made to his father, and for the first time in months, I slept without locking my door, but knowing the truth didn't erase the damage, it revealed something deeper. What came next would test our bond in ways neither of us expected, and force me to face the hardest part of all, forgiving myself. The truth has a strange way of settling in. It doesn't rush. It lingers, circling your thoughts, reshaping how you remember everything that came before. Even after I saw the footage, even after my son and I talked late into the night, my mind struggled to catch up with reality. Knowing the truth didn't immediately bring peace. In some ways, it made everything harder. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. For the first time in months, I remembered falling asleep. I remembered closing my eyes without fear. But when I opened them, a familiar heaviness settled on my chest, not terror this time, but guilt. I had suspected my own son. Even without speaking the accusation aloud, the thought alone felt like a betrayal. I found him in the kitchen, making coffee, moving slowly like someone who hadn't slept much either. For a moment, we stood there in silence, unsure how to exist in this new reality where secrets were no longer hidden. "I'm sorry," I said finally. The words felt small compared to the weight behind them. He looked at me, confused. "For what?" "For doubting you. For thinking. For not trusting you." He set the mug down gently. "Mom," he said, "you were scared. Anyone would be." But that didn't erase the shame. That same day, we went to the doctor together. I brought the footage. I brought notes I had written, dates, bruises, memory gaps. The doctor watched silently, his expression growing more serious with every second. He admitted the medication combination was dangerous for someone in my emotional state. Severe dissociation. Night terrors. Sleepwalking episodes with violent physical reactions. "I should have monitored this more closely," he said. Those words brought relief, but also anger. Not at him alone, but at the system that had failed to prepare me for what could happen. Grief had been treated like a minor inconvenience instead of the earthquake it truly was. My prescription was changed immediately. The dosage lowered. Therapy recommended. Regular check-ins scheduled. That night, my son didn't sleep with one ear open for the first time in weeks. But healing didn't happen overnight. Even after the episodes stopped, the emotional damage remained. I flinched at sudden movements. I hesitated before taking pills. I struggled to look at my son without remembering the footage, without seeing the bruises I left on him while asleep. And then there was the mirror. Every time I looked at my reflection, I saw two versions of myself. The woman I believed I was, and the stranger I became when I slept. Reconciling those two felt impossible. Therapy helped. Talking about grief felt like reopening a wound I had tried to seal too quickly. I learned that I hadn't given myself permission to fall apart after my husband died. I stayed strong, swallowed pain, and trusted medicine to fix what time and compassion hadn't been allowed to touch. That pressure had nowhere to go. So it came out at night. My therapist said something I'll never forget. You weren't dangerous because you were broken. You were dangerous because you were hurting in silence. My son attended some sessions with me. Hearing his side of the story was almost unbearable. How he cleaned blood from the sheets. How he researched medications at 3 a.m. How he debated calling emergency services every night but feared they'd take me away. He was afraid of losing me, just like I was afraid of losing control. Slowly, we rebuilt trust. We laughed again. Cooked meals together. Watched old movies. I returned to making soap in the garage, my hands finding comfort in familiar routines. Each bar I created felt like proof that I could still make something gentle, something safe. I stopped locking my bedroom door. Not because I didn't need protection, but because I finally felt it. Weeks passed. Then months. The bruises faded. The nightmares stopped. Sleep became restful instead of terrifying. And yet, there was one thing I hadn't faced fully. Forgiving myself. It's easier to accept medical explanations than emotional responsibility. But even though I wasn't conscious of my actions, the damage they caused was real. I had hurt someone I loved. And love doesn't erase accountability. One evening, I told my son I needed to say something. I don't ever want you to think that I take what you did for granted, I said. You protected me when I didn't even know I needed it. He smiled softly. You're my mom. There was never a choice. That's when I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's about choosing not to let what happened define the rest of your life. I started volunteering at church again. I spoke openly about grief, about medication side effects, about mental health. People listened. Some cried. Some thanked me. Many told me stories they had never shared with anyone else. Pain, I learned, multiplies in silence, but it heals when spoken. My life didn't return to what it was before my husband died. That life was gone. But something new took its place, something quieter, more honest, more aware that I wasn't weak for breaking. I was human. Just when I thought the worst was behind us, I realized this story wasn't meant to stay inside my home. What happened next would give my pain a purpose, and turn my darkest nights into a message someone else desperately needed to hear. Life has a way of revealing meaning long after the pain has passed. You don't recognize it at first. You're too busy surviving. Too busy repairing what was broken. But once the fear fades and the nights grow quiet again, you start to understand why some experiences refuse to leave you. For me, that understanding came slowly. Months after the episodes ended. My house felt like home again, not a place I feared, but a place I chose. I woke up rested. I cooked breakfast without flinching at sudden noises. I slept through the night without locking my door or bracing for the morning. And yet, the story stayed with me. I could have buried it. I could have moved on quietly, pretending it never happened. But every time I thought about the nights my son spent protecting me, about the woman I became without knowing it, I felt a responsibility growing heavier inside my chest. This wasn't just my story. It was a warning. And maybe, for someone else, a lifeline. I started small. At church gatherings, I spoke about grief, Real grief, not the tidy version people expect. I talked about how medication can help, but also how it can harm if not monitored closely. I spoke about sleep disorders, dissociation, and the terrifying experience of losing control of your own body. People listened. After one service, a woman approached me in tears. She told me her mother had been acting strangely at night, bruises, confusion, memory gaps. Doctors kept increasing medication. No one had considered another explanation. That conversation alone made speaking worth it. My son watched all of this quietly. He never asked me to stop. He never pushed me to share more than I was comfortable with. But one night, as we sat at the kitchen table, he said something that changed how I saw everything. Mom, he said, if you hadn't been brave enough to look for the truth, I don't know how much longer I could have handled it alone. That hit me harder than any bruise ever had. I realized then that silence doesn't protect people, it isolates them. It turns fear inward until it consumes everyone involved. Sharing my story wasn't about attention. It was about connection. I began volunteering with a local support group for caregivers. Many of them were exhausted, overwhelmed, carrying secrets they didn't know how to explain. I recognized the fear in their eyes, the same fear I once had. I told them what no one told me. Pay attention to unexplained injuries. Question sudden personality changes. Never assume fear means guilt. And above all, don't face it alone. As time passed, my relationship with my son deepened in ways I never expected. We no longer tiptoed around the past. We acknowledged it openly, without shame. It became part of our story, not the whole thing, but an important chapter. Sometimes, we even joked about it, gently, carefully. Laughter doesn't erase pain, but it does soften its edges. I still make soap in my garage. Each bar is simple, plain, unscented. But to me, they represent something bigger. Cleanliness, care, healing. I sell them at local markets now. And every time someone asks about the name of my small business, I smile. I call it his second night. Because I survived the first ones. And because everyone deserves a second chance at peace. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Losing control doesn't make you dangerous. Ignoring the truth does. I wasn't a monster. I wasn't broken beyond repair. I was grieving, and grief, when left unspoken, can wear terrifying masks. Today, I sleep peacefully. Not because nothing bad can happen, but because I know I'm not alone. Because my son and I faced the darkness together. Because truth, no matter how painful, set us free. And if you're listening to this story and something feels familiar, if unexplained fear, confusion, or guilt has been living quietly in your home, please don't ignore it. Talk. Ask. Seek help. Silence almost destroyed my family. Truth saved it. If this story touched you, write a truthy in the comments, not for me, but for someone who might need the courage to speak before fear takes over. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is face the night head on.